There we go. Hi, welcome back to Between Two Teachers. This week, and on today's episode, we have lots of new things to tell you about. I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
And I'm Consuelo Lara. Welcome this Friday, March 5th.
That's right, we've made it into March, and lots has happened. Lots and lots has happened in the world of education. We are, of course, greeting you from the sacred and holy land of the Chochenyo Kharkhin Ohlone people. And we salute them and remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland. And you know, this is a land acknowledgement, and I have been in more and more meetings with land acknowledgements now. I was in about 4 of them this week, 4 different Zoom meetings. So people are spreading, especially in the arts community. So I'm very happy that people are doing a land acknowledgement. I think it's really important. It's an important statement of equity and really looking at our history, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So anyway, what is happening in education? Well, 2 big things have happened nationally. The first one is we now have a new Secretary of Education. Mr. Cardona was approved by Congress, and so he has taken over. And what was interesting to me is that the day after he took office and took the position, he and the First Lady, Dr. Biden, went back to where he grew up and where he taught in Meridian, Connecticut.
4th grade, didn't he?
Yep. And so she was back there. I saw pictures of her in 2nd grade. He took her to the school. So she went to visit that school and say hello. And he had been there. He is somebody who stayed in the district that he went to school in and stayed and taught there. So he has never done anything outside of that district, except now he's going to Washington.
Wow, homegrown. Okay.
Now, good for him. So he's moved up in his job. On the other hand, Mr. Carranza, who used to be over here in San Francisco. When I was on the board, I actually met Mr. Carranza when he was superintendent in San Francisco. And then he went to Houston, and he was superintendent in Houston. And then he went to New York City, where he ran the largest school district in the country. And he resigned.
Because
he had some difficulty with the mayor. And in New York City, the mayor, not the board, the mayor chooses everybody. It's mayoral control. And he and the mayor had a different point of view about a lot of things. But one of the biggest ones was equity. And they had issues around how children were going to be chosen, whether or not you could have schools of choice, and what a school of choice meant in terms of applying to get into these different schools that had testing requirements to get into them. And so there were many, different issues that they didn't agree on. But in addition to that, that's not what I must, say that Mr. Carranza didn't say that. He said he was grieving because he'd lost 11 members of his family to COVID.
Oh dear. Oh my goodness.
And he was very, very emotional in his farewell to New York City. And I think his last day is going to be March 15th. But the mayor gets to appoint the next person. And the mayor is going to be out of office in November and is termed out. So he's not running. So there'll be a new mayor as of November. There are a lot of people running for mayor. But he appointed the first African-American woman to take over the largest school district in the country. And she is a person who is also from New York, unlike Mr. Carranza. This is a person who's from New York and who is a Bronx superintendent in the Bronx. So they have a new person taking over right away.
Wow.
So that's the big changes.
That is big news. Yeah, that's big news.
Those two, Mr. Carranza and Mr. Cardona. And Mr. Carranza is just taking a break.
Yeah. But
the rest of the country all about school reopening, right? And so, and vaccines and how teachers are eligible for and using that eligibility to be able to be vaccinated before they return to classrooms, or some teachers who are already in classrooms being given preference to be able to be vaccinated, right? That's the big issue. And UTLA, which is the United Teachers of LA, they're the second largest in the country. They're having a member vote on whether or not to come back if everybody's vaccinated.
Okay.
And that's the big issue now in California. Is there had been a conversation around how everybody had to be tested, and really the school districts don't have a mechanism to test everybody. That's not even easily possible.
Yeah.
So a lot of the districts had said, we can't do that. The testing regime that you've put out is something that we can't possibly do.
Right.
So that got moved aside. The bill that got signed yesterday, it had AB 86. It didn't have the same kind of stringent testing in it. It does have money that's available for districts that come back by April 1st. And they either come back in a TK or TK to 6. And then if you're a secondary district, you have to bring back 1 grade to be eligible for this money. And there were 2 pots of money. There's a pot for the reopening, and then another pot for learning loss, how you're going to address learning loss.
Right. And this is
All of
state,
this is underfunded, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
that's what we've got.
and this is all state, federal, both? What is it?
No, this is just California.
Just California, just a
That's
state.
California. That's the California bill.
Okay.
That got signed yesterday. It got changed a little bit and it got signed yesterday. And then we had that was the backdrop for a meeting. West Contra Costa had yet another meeting last night. So it's had meetings almost every night. And they are struggling with what is true across the country. There are many people who are very ready for their children to go back to school, and very active and vocal about wanting all of our schools to reopen full time and as soon as possible. And many other people who are not. And there's a distinction in who feels comfortable coming back and who doesn't feel comfortable coming back, right? And the more affluent communities feel much more comfortable. That's why the Marin County is back, Piedmont is back, because they have the wherewithal to support coming back. Communities of color, communities that are lower income are much less comfortable coming back. And some of them have decided not to come back at all until the fall. Like Hayward. Hayward decided in December not to come back. And that's it. They're not talking about it. They're just not talking about it. They've made the decision and they're moving in the direction of having hubs at their schools.
And they all agree to this. They agree. They didn't fight
Right.
about it. And
Yeah.
one
They
side,
had a discussion, they had a conversation. They were led, in their case, they're led by a superintendent, Dr. Wayne, who used to be a principal here in West Contra Costa. And he went on in his career and became superintendent in Hayward. So there you have it. West Contra Costa, however, did have an interesting meeting last night, didn't they?
yes. It was very unfortunate. They, like you said, almost every night they have a meeting, so they are exhausted.
Yeah.
It's like this punishment, that they're going through, and it's really sad. These are really fine, intelligent individuals, and they're put in this impossible situation, doing the best that they can, but it is exhausting. And it's not like everybody's trying to do not the best they can, but to try to come together. They seem to want to break it apart and say, no, I want it my way, no, not your way. And then they're attacking each other, or it's just not a stable board right now. And it's really sad. It doesn't have to be that way. These are really fine, fine individuals, and I'm really sorry that this is all happening. So that is what I see, from my perspective, having been there. I mean, our board wasn't much better, but what I've learned, I got to go to that Labor Management Institute because we have the
Right.
solutions team. And the biggest takeaway I had from that was that when you have labor management, in other words, your leadership is strong and stable, then you have positive student outcome. I never thought about that before, but it's true. So we don't have that. And so these people that keep at odds with each other, they're not helping our children. And it's like they don't keep that in mind, that
No.
destructiveness is really detrimental to our children. So the meeting yesterday, I think everybody's confused. What does it mean?
It took them 3 hours to start. This was a meeting that was 3 hours late starting.
3 hours late in closed session, and they came back looking just devastated. I took it that the only thing that happened, not like, okay, they got to come back, but they've opened the negotiations again. So they can start talking about it.
Which
When
is
they wrote
appropriate
that-
because of the new bill, there's money on the table. The circumstances have changed. Vaccinations are available. So it makes sense to revisit an agreement that you made under different circumstances, right? Whether or not
Yes.
what you do with it is another story, but it does make sense, I think, to revisit it.
Absolutely. Why would you not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully people understand that, but it's like people have to take sides all the time and then just attack each other. But the bigger picture is everybody is frustrated, everybody's anxious, everybody's stressed out, and not at our best right now.
Right.
And that
Right.
leads me to what happened in Oakley. There was
Yes.
one of the people, there was an application anyway, this woman was saying that she knew these people who did that, said those inappropriate things, and they were all good people. And it's like, we're at our weakest right now,
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, pops into my head, I'm gonna say it, not, thinking, but it's just unfortunate. So who knows what could happen next, under that stress and anxiety. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but I wish they would really focus on the kids and stop bashing the district, the kids, the unions, each other. You've got to stop doing that because it doesn't help the kids. So
No.
my
No.
opinion on that, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Now, Oakley is interesting. You are moving in. You did make some
Yes.
decisions.
Yes. So this was a really great thing. We got there and there were 12 applicants. So there's 4 altogether. There was area 2, which was already in the works before this thing happened. Then this is weird. Then there's another area. Yeah. There's 2 more areas, area 3 and 5 or something like that. And then there's 2 positions that are at large.
Right.
They have a mix.
That's because they switched to districts and they didn't want to give anybody a 2-year, how you have the 2-year terms. So this way there's
Yes.
nobody who ever takes a 2-year term. I think that's how
Yes.
it goes.
Yeah.
So,
And it's gonna
there are a
change.
lot of convoluted choices when you're switching to district elections.
Yeah. And so we got the applications, we got 12 really good people. I have to commend, these are some, again, really good, fine people, good experience. And and luckily those of us looking at these applications, kind of our top 3 were all the same. So that was nice. That was nice.
It was
And
a
we
good
chose.
public process. That's what I like for the
Yes.
transparency of it. It was a public
Yes.
process.
I know. And like somebody said, when last time when I voted, I could only just see some signs of people. I didn't know this much about each candidate as I do now. And so now they did mess up one thing. The 12 applications should have been posted.
Yes,
They
because the
didn't do
public
that.
would have known more if the applications were sort of like a candidate statement.
Exactly. So
right?
they're gonna
So
do
if
it
you
from
were
now on.
running for office, you would post a candidate statement.
Yeah. So
And
but
public
going
would know.
forward, for these others, it is gonna be posted, which thank goodness. And I hope the community reads them and
Yeah.
they send us emails, tell us what you think. We want to get all
Right.
that information.
Right, and they didn't get a chance to do that with this first one.
Correct, correct. But they seem to be okay with our choice.
Mhm.
It was a Miss Lynn Fuller, and she was sworn in right away.
Right,
Bam,
right, no, that
bam.
was great.
So now there's four of
Now there's
us.
4 of you.
Okay, one homegrown, and so I think they're going to do something like, I don't know how they're going to roll it out, kind of like as they complete the board, then one of us will leave, and then
So the goal is to get to the point where there would be 3 members from Oakley who then would choose the last 2. That's what I thought I heard. That's what the
Yeah.
attorney, one of the thing that the attorney recommended, so that at least it wouldn't be
yes,
people from the outside making the
yes,
choices.
I believe that's what it is. And Mr. Maxwell suggested, well, I mean, like we could still be there and participate maybe in discussion, but yeah, it would be their choices. And I think, and we're going to be doing it 3 more times.
Well, you have to
So,
do it fast, right? Because there's a 60-day time limit, right? And the
Yeah.
one thing I did hear him say, well, he was willing to stay until May, and the attorney said, you have to be done and out on April 19th.
yeah, so our next one is on the 9th, and then there's someone on the 11th. So that's 2 next week. So yeah, I think
So
we'll
that
make
could be
it.
it, because then there would be 3.
That's true. Then there would be 3.
And then the 3 of them could make the choices in the future. I mean, that may not happen, but it could.
Yeah, it could. It could. So I'm happy with this process. I think it's fair. I think it's transparent and getting closer and closer to it. Now, there was that thing, everybody's been asking, how come they don't record their
Meetings.
and post the meetings? Well, the secretary told me that they do actually record them, but they don't post them unless somebody requests them. But I've never seen anything that looks like we're being recorded, and they've never mentioned that we're being recorded.
No,
So
all of those things that you're supposed to do. they don't do.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
and it doesn't say it in, from what I could see, it doesn't say it in the agenda.
right, right. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe,
I mean, I think really it would be a best practice for them to record and publicly make it available. And
Yeah.
it's not like that's a difficult thing. You don't have to hire a recording studio to come in. I mean, that used to be the thing. You'd have to have a TV camera come in, right?
remember, yeah,
Right.
remember
But
that.
not
Yeah.
anymore.
No, nope,
You
not
just have to
anymore.
press the record button.
Yeah, and then the other thing was about the other transparency thing was, oh gosh, what was that other? I guess the minutes, somebody said that minutes are not, they don't tell you enough about, the meetings. So people just want to know more about more
Right.
detail.
Well, I think especially since it's very difficult to watch the meeting, right? If you have, I think they have something called action minutes, and action minutes are, you just say, here are the actions that we took, but it doesn't give you any context for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that makes more sense perhaps if you have access to the video, and then you can just see. And there are a lot of organizations, a lot of public meetings that are, not only do they have a video, but the video is connected to the action item or the agenda item, and you can just press the agenda item and you get right to that discussion. And that's available.
that's
And
good.
that's something that they
That's
could
really
look
good.
into.
Yeah, these days we've got to really, that transparency issue, just be out there as much as we possibly can. So, but this is a good example. I think it's a good process. I think it's,
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it
well.
is a good process. I just do hope that, I mean, the thing that they have to realize is that the public can record their meetings.
yeah,
This is not an impossible thing to do.
yeah,
It's a public meeting. And so it's sort of like they don't realize that. So if anybody who wants to can, this is the era, especially it's a public meeting.
Yeah,
Not saying
yeah.
people would record closed session. It's a public meeting.
correct. Yeah, so you gotta, assume that's what's
Yeah.
gonna, that's
Yeah,
what's
so
gonna
I
take
hope
place.
they do make them available, especially since they do record them. So
Okay.
there's that. Okay,
What's
so
that? What else we got?
what was I gonna talk about?
Do we have
there
any
was
call?
some
call to
privatization. Now, you know what?
action?
I'm going to do the call. Well, the call to actions were all about what was happening in Sacramento, but now they've voted in Sacramento. All of that is done. I think what I'll do is just get to my big. Well, there's a call to actions around high stakes testing to go back and say to Mr. Our new Secretary of Education to stop the testing. We don't need to have testing. Our children had gone through enough. We really need to revisit testing in general. And that's a big problem. And also to increase the resources that are in the COVID bills for schools, for all of our districts. And also in particular for special education, right? Those are all things that as the feds are looking at their budgets and the state, that people are looking at how to fund special education. These are the children that are most vulnerable, who they say they're going to fund and who they don't fund. So
Yeah. Oh, definitely need to do that.
there
too.
is that.
Okay.
There are a few other things here. I'm just going to post some other events that people can go to. But my big shout out, and I am so happy to be able to do this shout out because this is because this makes a big difference. I did listen to the Hayward Unified School District board member, their board meeting, their last board meeting. And I taught there for many years. And I know some of you watching us right now know me from my role at Hayward. And Hayward has had a bumpy road, just like other school districts, with ups and downs, and how their boards are get along with each other and are effective. And we were talking about the West County Board, which is struggling a little right now. Hayward is not. Hayward is shining. I was so impressed by their last board meeting, and I just want them to know, if I was given a gold star for meetings, I would give it for tone, for effectiveness, and for collegiality and working together.
Oh, gosh.
And with a brand new board member who had just been appointed due to a strange circumstance. That was also not a bad thing. It wasn't that anybody did anything wrong. Somebody was so successful that he won 2 offices. And turns out you can only have one at a time. And so he had to pick one, and he went onto the college board, the college board of trustees, and there was therefore an opening on the school district board, and they went through the process of finding somebody to take that seat. So this is my personal shout out to Hayward Unified School District and the board of trustees. They did a great job. They are on the path.
So would you say that board is stable?
Yeah, absolutely.
And would you say the relationship between that board and that superintendent is positive and trusting?
Yep.
And that's what you need.
That's right.
That's what you need. That's right.
And that's what I felt. I mean, I watched this meeting. I know most people don't watch other people's board meetings, but I do. And because I just said, I want to see, I get depressed watching some of these other board meetings, and I thought I have to find something. I watched the Oakland board meeting, another one that was 9 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And they didn't pass the reparations. That was incredible. That was a huge thing. But they're going to revisit that in Oakland. So they are struggling. They are definitely struggling. So at this little moment in history, the gold star goes to Hayward.
Shout out to Hayward.
Shout out to Hayward. Hayward Unified
School District. Yay.
Yes.
There's good news out there.
Time for our chuckle from Carlos.
All right. Ready for a chuckle here. Okay, he sent two. I'm gonna send both because they're fun, both funny.
Okay.
What's the longest word in the English dictionary?
Oh, I don't know, Consuelo. What's the longest word?
Smiles, because there's a mile between the first and the last letters. A mile.
Wow.
But this one's really cute too. What's the difference between a politician and a flying pig?
Oh, I don't know. What's the difference between a politician and a flying pig?
The letter F.
Oh, that
A lying
no.
pig.
On that note, we we are, and we should announce we are now vaccinated. We are the vaccinated teachers, between two vaccinated teachers. So we're ready to go. We are ready to go. We are actually, this poor teacher never got vaccinated.
Never got vaccinated.
No,
Hopefully
she
she
didn't.
survived. Hopefully.
Oh, well, she's standing. She's
She's
standing. And
standing.
she's not doing social distancing. They weren't into the social distancing in that classroom. Nobody told them about that.
No.
No.
So
But-
we are so lucky.
But we are vaccinated, so we salute her. And maybe soon I will take this down. But we have to reopen. Once we reopen, I think I'll take it down. I'll put
Yeah.
something else up there. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll see you all
Okay.
next time. Bye-bye.